So yeah, beautiful people, my Shiinuan is already at 5 stars because I plan 100% to do a very deep analysis on the Marshal Pikemans. But as of right now for this episode, it literally makes no sense to do a battle analysis for this hero because we don't have auto yet. But what does make sense 100% is for you to watch this episode, as it's gonna be filled with a ton of informations, and of course you're also gonna see some battle reports with this hero at 5 stars, and we're definitely gonna have a look at both setups with battle report, the support setup and the damage dealing setup, which is gonna be a turn-based skill damage type of heroes. So let's have a closer look at Shiinuan first, because this hero is kind of similar to Ram Khamhaeng, though I consider Shiinuan to be far better, because what also makes Ram Khamhaeng super strong is actually his commander skill, because of this relaxation stage, but he has to be commander. And we will also analyze this with battle reports and animation, by the way, in this episode. But Shiinuan is actually far more valuable because of his signature skill. So he doesn't necessarily have to be the commander. I wouldn't use him as a commander. Of course, it's important to see the commander skill and the numbers at max level. So it recovers a certain quality of units. The recovery rate is huge, 520%. It gives you a strategy bonus and a might bonus. It increases your skill damage by 18%. And again, we see here a strategy and a might bonus. So before we have a closer look at his signature skill, it's actually important to have a look at the star level, because that would allow me to explain even better at what star level this hero is actually great. Because honestly, beautiful people, at 1 star, this is, nothing special whatsoever, as you get an extra 20% recovery rate. At 3 star, he is slightly better, as it will gonna increase the next commander's skill damage by additional 25%. But what makes this hero extremely valuable is actually the 5 stars level, exactly like Ram Khamhaeng, because this will gonna increase the chances of getting this 1 second immunity by 33%. Even though you see here 5%, why? Now we can have a look at the signature skill, because not having the 5th star, you're only gonna have a 10% chance to get this damage immunity for 1 second. This extra 25%, you already see it here from the 3rd star. So yes, indeed, it's a 33% increase, and it's gonna be absolutely needed. Now, when it comes down to the skills, guys, you can already see that in game, even if you don't have the hero unlocked. But my recommendation when it comes down to this hero, and after playing a little bit around with him, my opinion is you definitely have to run him as a healer. It doesn't matter if the Marshal Pikemen should only buff or should do the damage. And let me add another very important fact, because I'm fully aware that, 70-80% of the viewers of this channel, these players have stats lower than mine. And that will make this episode even more valuable, because yes, indeed, I am super interested in this battle analysis, which is Shiinuan, to see if I'm finally getting convinced to use a Marshal Pikeman setup as a 5th March, yes or no. So if the answer will gonna be no for me, it's gonna be 100% no for you. So good, here we see the 2 versions of the Marshal Pikemans. This being the turn-based skill damage setup, or the damage dealing setup, and this one being the support or buffing setup. So let's briefly analyze this, and we're actually gonna start with the turn-based skill damage. And if you remember what I said at the beginning of the video, as of right now, it's absolutely not worth it to analyze this March without auto. Because what I can show you right now is Caesar with Octavian and Shiinuan. And yes, indeed, my Caesar is at 5 stars. Yes, indeed, my Octavian is also at 5 stars. And yes, indeed, Shiinuan is an absolutely fantastic hero, and I consider him to be a better hero than Ram Khamhaeng, which is already great. But the fact is also Shiinuan is just 1 hero out of 3. And these 2 heroes, Caesar and Octavian, or to be more precise, their performance, was the main reason why my Pikemans in general, before Cyrus, were on slot number 4 when it comes down to the priority list to upgrade their stats, their gear, their gems, and so on. So let's have a look at a couple battle reports, because I'm also going to show you this setup. So maybe a couple of you guys probably imagined this was the first setup I wanted to test, which is Shiinuan with Vlad and Cyrus. And let's have a look at that. Though this setup can theoretically only be proper tested versus a rally, not versus the support depot boss. So if we have a look at the lineup, you see basically that on Shiinuan, I literally added the entire stuff for Mansa Musa. Let's have a look at the buffs here. So basically kind of you see the stats. What's super important is to see here the overall performance. But this is just versus one match out of 4 of this support depot. And let me first show you his heals, because you're gonna notice that he's gonna heal far more than Ram Kham actually. So the second battle report is actually this one. And if we go into the stats, you see a 2.3k. Let's go into the third battle report. Here we see a 1.5k. And here we see another 3.9k. And we're going to go actually into the details once we have a look at Ram Kham with Octavian, what I can use right now, and Shiinuan, because it will be far easier for you to see the difference between Shiinuan and Ram Kham. Good. Now let's take example of the Marshal Pikeman's turn-based skill damage version, because I can use Caesar right now and Octavian will play along with Otto. So if we go into this setup, we go directly to the comparison. First of all, what you see, they don't have any rings on, but they have default gear, gold gear at level 80, but no gems on them. So from this perspective, yes, we can have a look at the overall performance, and you can see basically the damage happening here. You see the heal from Shiinuan. Let's go into the second report of the same battle, by the way. So here is the overview basically. Pause the video if you need to take a screenshot. Again, I will gonna go into the details when we are comparing Shiinuan with Ram Kham. Because as I said, from my perspective, you can only run Shiinuan as a healer. So this is the overview of what happened here and basically the performance. And let's have a look at the fourth result of, again, the same battle. This is the overview and basically what happened. Of course, Caesar does a bit more damage. Good. Now, this is basically more or less how the setup looks right now. Again, we definitely need Otto. And now we're going to review this. And now let's analyze the support setup, which will be something like this. Of course, obviously, we're definitely going to need Otto in here. It will perform far better than Octavian because of that extra immunity. But the big question will going to be if it's going to be enough for me to actually use the buff Marshal Pikemans. And I will going to explain how this match works in a very beautiful way. First, of course, we're going to take a look at the numbers, see the activation skills. But after that, I will actually going to run an animation of how this fight looks like on the battlefield for a simple reason. There is a massive difference between how this match looks like on paper, theoretically speaking, and how efficient is this match on the battlefield. So let's start with the numbers. You see here a PvE battle report, but I'm also going to show you a PvP battle report. And we go directly to the stats because this is showing you in general. And as mentioned at the beginning of this video, Qin Shi Huang, it's actually healing more than Ram Kham. What else are you seeing in here? Well, this is a battle of 2 minutes and 14 seconds versus the supply depot boss. And the only damage dealing is done in this case by Octavian, as the main goal of this match is to stay as long as possible alive and help your marches or the marches of your allies, presuming they are within the range. So let's have a closer look at the details. And not just only when we are looking here, but also when we scroll all the way down to Shiinuan, we definitely have to mention this massive problem.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem.
Yes, Houston, obviously we have a massive issue with the way this battle tab looks like as of right now, because the game is 1 year old and we are seeing things like this. His signature skill activated 22 times, and when you click here, the big question is gonna be, well, how many times have I obtained this damage immunity? Because I have a 15% chance to get it. Well, with this very poor battle tab design, all I can tell you right now is I got it at least one time. How many times? I simply don't know. And not just in this case, dear developers, in which obviously I'm pushing this hero from 3 stars to 5 stars. I really want to see this number in here. And since this is, from my perspective, an emergency, you don't necessarily actually have to rework the entire tab. All you have to do is actually use these icons which already are displayed in here, because the code knows exactly how many times, in this case, the damage immunity has applied, and just add a small number in the corner. So I see it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and later, obviously, I have nothing against you actually reworking this. So good. So from the signature skill, 12,000 healing, and we can compare this, of course, with Ram Kham's healing, which is already, by the way, super solid. And of course, I'm getting heals also from this purple ring, which is in this case Ring of Falcon. It's absolutely perfect. You don't need that new ring for 4,000 of those tokens. So good, this is just one battle result, but the battle has actually 4 opponents. So let's click very briefly on these 2. We want to go to the stats. Again, look at the difference. We're also going to the details. We scroll all the way down. Feel free at any time actually to take a screenshot. 28 activation of the signature skill. All I can tell you, I got it at least 1 time, sadly. So good, let's have a look at the other 2 marches very fast, and then we're gonna have a look at the PvP battle report. Also with this setup. So again, the stat shows you what happens. So have a look. In this case, it's more than double. And when we go to the details, you can also see the amount of activations for all 3 heroes. So pause the video if you need to. And these are the results for the last march also. And again, it's clear to be seen he heals actually more. It's a great hero. Good. We scroll all the way down. Here are the activations. And now let's have a look actually at the PvP battle report. And then I'm going to put the animation on the screen. And I'm going to explain you exactly where to pay attention to. And during that animation, I'm also going to mention a couple of disadvantages. Yes, you heard me right. If you choose to use these Marshal Pikemans on the battlefield. So this is one battle report. So obviously I put 2 purple heroes so they can die very fast. Let's have a look at the buffs actually from the beginning. So this is a very solid player. There's no question about it. Here you also see my stats, his stats. And now let's have a look at the overall performance. Sure, I would have preferred that this battle should have been far longer. It's only 32 seconds. Yet again, you see that the new hero is actually doing more healing than Ram Kham does. And of course, we can jump into the details. Here you see the commander skill of Ram actually healing allied troops, 6,461. And of course, we'll scroll all the way down and have a look at the skill activation of the new hero. Good. So I think now is the time to actually put this battle animation on the screen. And like I said, let me add a couple of disadvantages which you will have if you choose to use the Marshal Pikemans, even as buffing. So the argument 1 is absolutely super obvious. On the Pikemans right now, we have a setup with Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa, which is extremely crazy and extremely dangerous. Then we also have the Tactician Pikemans because, yeah, that's Belisarius with Elizabeth and Ashoka. And this is a very powerful single target setup, also for Pikemans. And basically, you are looking now at the 3rd Pikeman setup. Now, I don't know about you, but what I have observed lately on the battlefield, you probably have noticed not to see that many archers anymore. And this has something to do with Cyrus, because not just Lu Bu is massively affected by Cyrus' presence in Age of Empires Mobile, also the archers. So more and more players are starting to run around with 2 swordsman setups. Not to mention the fact that, again, not many archers on the field to counter the swordsman. So that's indeed one thing which you definitely have to think about when it comes down to the Marshal Pikemans. But here is more. Please pay attention on this animation and see every time when Ram Kham is activating his commander skill, pay attention to this radius. Within this radius, he is going to apply these heals and buffs. And I specifically wanted to have the boss exactly in that area. Why? Because you can compare that circle, with that flag over there or with the citadel to get a better idea how big this ring actually is. But there is more. And especially in KVK, well, using a Marshal Pikeman in this case for buffing reasons, so around about 4 minutes is going to be the marching time. To go there, obviously, their goal is not to kill or damage anything, but just simply to buff something, hopefully. And if you take in consideration that this circle is kind of limited, the question on a battlefield will be, how many players did you succeed to buff? Was it probably too late? Was it actually worth it to send a full march of pikemen just for that buff? Because you could easily use the full march of pikemen to come back with your Cyrus, or to come back with your Belisarius, which is a very serious and strong alternative. So yeah, beautiful people, this is all I have for you right now on Qin Shi Huang. Obviously, I'm super excited to hear your thoughts in the comments. And as always, yeah, don't forget to support what supports you back. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Ciao, ciao, ciao.